Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The importance of this debate and the votes that may follow cannot be underestimated in terms of their significance, not just to those avidly following every twist and turn of this debate, and good morning to you if you're still watching, but of course those who are fed up with discussing Brexit, but even more so to our children, young people and future generations to come. And no wonder that I've been inundated with emails and correspondence from constituents. Some constituents asking me to vote against the agreement because it doesn't deliver the Brexit that they feel they were promised, and believing that a no-deal outcome would be preferable. I do not share this analysis due to the projected dire impact of a no-deal Brexit on almost every aspect of our everyday lives. I'm not clear how any Member of Parliament could even consider this to be an option. And I also refuse to hold such low ambitions for our country and future generations than being able to survive the next few years ahead, indeed decades, or however long it is that the hard Brexiteers now state it will take us to start feeling the benefits of leaving the EU. And I know that the economy was not the only driving factor behind the vote in June 2016, but all the parliamentary sovereignty in the world will not make up for rising unemployment, reduced living standards, falling productivity and lost opportunities, not least in regions like the North East, which has been thrown on the economic scrap heap too many times before. And a small number of constituents have asked me to vote in favour of the withdrawal agreement, as they believe that it's the best offer available to us after the Prime Minister's efforts. And they're understandably concerned about the prospect of crashing out of the EU, given the government's insistence that these are the only two options ahead of us. And I recognise that the Prime Minister has had an impossible task, trying to deliver on a totally unachievable set of pledges that were made by others. But that is no reason for the Prime Minister to continue ploughing on regardless of what is at stake for our country. And I simply will not accept and do not accept that we face a binary choice between this deal and no deal at all, because it's increasingly clear that driving off the cliff is not an inevitability. Parliament can stop this bus before we drive over the edge. Parliament is sovereign. That view is shared by the overwhelming majority of the large number of constituents who have contacted me asking me to vote against this withdrawal agreement next week, and to continue to work to ensure the final decision on how we proceed as a country is put back to the British public via a people's vote. And this is the approach I intend to take. I cannot support this agreement because it's a fudge, and it only serves to emphasise that negotiating an agreement better than or equivalent to the one we already have as members of the EU just cannot be done, despite the bombastic pledges of the former Brexit Secretary that he would deliver the exact same benefits of our current membership. And we're giving up these benefits for an agreement that the government admits will leave every region and every nation of the UK poorer. It must be the only Prime Minister and Chancellor in living memory to actively pursue a policy that they know will damage the economy of their own country. And there will, of course, be no Brexit dividend, and therefore no additional funding for our public services. Meanwhile, we'll be subject to EU rules with no say over how they're made in future. So much for taking back control. The withdrawal agreement also fails to deal with the several pivotal issues, such as the Northern Ireland border. And crucially, for thousands of businesses in the North East and the hundreds and thousands of good, skilled jobs that they provide, it provides absolutely no certainty about our future relationship with the EU, nor the frictionless trade and easy access to European markets that our manufacturing service firms require. MPs are being asked by the Prime Minister to vote for a blindfold Brexit, with no idea what happens beyond transition, whilst also being subject to the most ridiculous peddling of misinformation by the government, desperately trying to persuade us all that this fudge is what the country really wants. And as I said to the Prime Minister earlier in this debate, if the government is so convinced that this withdrawal agreement is what the country wants, instead of resorting to propaganda campaigns, why don't they go back to the British public and actually ask them if they support it. This is not about trying to rerun the 2016 referendum, but about asking people to confirm, now that a Brexit deal is on the table, whether this is what they want for their country, their economy and their families. Or do they prefer to remain in the EU on the current terms that they already have? It's evident that there is no majority in this House for the Prime Minister's deal, nor for a no-deal outcome. So, after much deliberation, I have come to the conclusion that the most constructive, democratic and realistic way forward out of this deadlock is to put the issue back to those who started this process back in 2016 to make the decision on how we proceed going forward and give it back to the people in a people's vote.
Tommy Shepherd.